Firearms training can be a real blast. Treat every firearm as if it is loaded. Always keep your firearm pointed in a safe direction. Keep your finger off the trigger. Keep your safety on. Be sure of your target. What's up, warriors? It's Kyoshi Dave Herman with 5 Elements Tactical Training, here to share with you some warrior skills and drills that anyone can learn and everyone should know. If you're new to the channel, welcome and thanks for stopping by. If you already follow us on social media and that's how you found your way over to this channel, go ahead and hit the subscribe button and the bell notification button, and YouTube will let you know when the next video drops so you can get all sorts of cool content from here as well. Firearms training can be a lot of fun. For a lot of jobs, it's really important, especially if that's you rely on that tool to help keep you safe in the course of your duties. If you're a new shooter, a target shooter, a competitive shooter, the rules for firearm safety are the same across the board. In this video, we're going to discuss the 4 cardinal rules of firearm safety. So I have several certifications as a firearms instructor, and each one of those schools worded these rules differently. I've heard and I've read and seen plenty of other ways, but the rules are all the same. They might be worded differently, how they say it, they're all worded similar but different, but the rules, the gist, the meaning, the guidelines are the same, no matter where you learn it from and no matter how they're worded. So we're going to go over them. I'll explain them to you, and I really hope that you pay good attention to them. Watch this video, re-watch this video, re-watch this video. If you're going to be shooting with somebody else and going to the range and you're not sure if how much training they've had or how safe they're going to be, you've never shot with them before, share this. Pass it on, because the knowledge and really the rules are invaluable. You cannot shoot without them. I'm at the range a lot, and I see a lot of shooters shooting all the time. A lot of them have been shooting for a long time, and even they, at times, break some of these rules. I know I'm not perfect. I'm sure I do also, but the more I teach, the more I spot it, the more I see those, oh my God, those type of moments that, like, wow, that could be so bad. By breaking one of these rules, that you get better at policing yourself. So the better you know them, the more you practice them, the more you are aware of them, and the more you'll be aware when you see other people kind of not following them. I've been at the range and I just saw people being so dangerous that I'm not the range safety officer there. I'm not the boss of them. I said, I'm here to shoot. I would like to shoot today. I got my targets. I got my ammo. I'm all excited. I love being at the range. And I was on a range with people that were being really unsafe. And to me, I'd rather leave. I'd just leave. You keep my money. Maybe tell I'm not a tattletale or not a rat, but man, somebody could really get hurt. Hey, range safety officer, I'm out, but yo, go keep an eye on that. Like, somebody's gonna get hurt. So let's get into the rules. We're gonna go over them. They're real simple, but they're really important. So pay good attention. Take notes if you gotta. Rewatch this. Pass it on. Share it. Make them habits. Make them habits. All right. So when we go over these firearm safety rules, I can't stress enough the idea of redundancy, like double, triple, quadruple, quintuple checking that you're following them like all the time. In action, in like setting up at the range, packing your bag, taking your firearms from your safe, putting them back in your safe, putting them in your case, taking them from your case. For instance, so I have a pistol, a shotgun, and a rifle. When I took them out of my safe at home, I inspected them to make sure that they were safe and empty. When I took them from the safe and then put them into the case, putting them into the case, I double checked to make sure that they're safe and empty. When I got to the school and I unpacked them, I triple checked to make sure that they were safe and empty. When I set them up on the table, I quadruple checked to make sure that they were safe and empty. And I'm going to show you how to do it also. The ammunition that you see on the table here, they're all dummy rounds. I use these for my students. I learned with them. I still train with them. I practice with them all the time. These are 9mm pistol rounds. I have a 9mm on the table. There's no primer in there. I don't know if you could focus in on that, but there's no primer, there's no gunpowder, there's no projectile. You use these for practicing how to load, unload, reload, and then down the road you use them to practice malfunction and misfire drills. So I have the same thing for 12-gauge shotgun rounds. I keep them in clear bags so that, like, I could, again, visually and physically inspect to make sure that there's no live ammunition anywhere in the table, anywhere in the room, and you can't have any accidents. So again, you get my 223, but the magazines are empty. Shotgun has a cylindrical magazine. My Glock magazine, empty. There's no live ammunition in the room. There's no live ammunition on the table. There's no live ammunition in the building, for that matter. So again, for using this for instructional purposes, I can't stress enough the idea of redundancy. Just double, triple, quadruple checking to make sure that everything you're doing is safe, to do your best to prevent any type of accidents, because with firearms, accidents can be tragic. Another thing is I have my firearms laid out a certain way so that if we were at the range and this table is set to simulate being at the range, we have a target. It's a very short range, but that's considered downrange. That's a safe direction. All the firearms are laid out in such a way that a range safety officer or another shooter can walk by and without touching anything, look and see that, all right, there's no magazine in there, the slide is locked to the rear, yep, empty, 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 whew, safe. I could look at the magazine and see empty. I could look at the magazine, empty. All right, good, we're safe, we're good. And even still, we're going to follow these safety rules no matter what, all the time. So again, I've heard these worded all different ways. In police world, you refer to your gun as your weapon. Military refers to their gun as weapon. NRA, that's not a weapon, that's a gun. That's a firearm, that's a tool. I don't care what you call the thing. Follow the rules, call it what you want. Police world, we learned it as treat every weapon as if it is loaded. NRA will say treat every gun as if it is loaded. It doesn't matter which gun you are looking at or approaching or about to handle, treat it like it's loaded. Here's why. Now, before we go any further, so there's no magazine, right? You can see clear through to the other side. Can I get that in there? Okay, good. When we look in it from the top down, you can see through, so there's no source of ammunition, right? There's no, when you look in here, you can see straight through. There's no round. I'm trying to, sorry. Okay, there. And then when I tilt it this way, I don't know if you can see in there, maybe my flashlight. Can you see? All right, there's the chamber. That's empty, man. Okay. If the slide was forward, you may say, oh, there's no magazine in there. But if I can't see inside, I can't tell if maybe there's a round in the chamber, right? Scary. First rule of firearm safety, treat every gun as if it is loaded. Whether you could see in there or not, whether you know 1000% sure that it is empty, you always treat it like it's loaded. Treating a firearm like it's loaded as a habit, like habitually treating it like it's loaded, makes you respect it at a different level. Like if you picked up a loaded firearm, you'd be like super duper careful with it, right? You'd be careful where you point it and how you hold it, and you wouldn't wave it around. Like you would like be super careful, and that's how they should always be treated. Treat every firearm as if it is loaded. Rule 1. Second rule of firearm safety. Always keep your firearm pointed in a safe direction. In general, safe direction is away from people. Now, I've heard that word as do not point your weapon or do not point your firearm at anything you do not intend to destroy, which means like if you were at the range and there are people shooting beside you, that you're not like turning and pointing your firearm at them, that you're not pointing it at yourself, that you, oh God forbid, like you always keep it pointed in a safe direction, which is away from people, including yourself. Do not point it at anything you do not intend to destroy. Third rule of firearm safety. That's your safety. Now, shotgun has a safety switch. When it's on safe, you can pull on that trigger as hard as you can and it won't go bang. AR-15, most semi-automatic rifles have some sort of safety switch that when it's on safe, you can pull on that trigger. I don't advise that, but you can pull on the trigger as hard as you want and it won't go bang because the safety is engaged. Glock pistols, they're safeties, but there's no safety switch. That if you pull on the trigger outside the holster and it's loaded and charged, it will go off. This becomes your safety. So rule number 3 is keep your finger off the trigger and outside of the trigger guard until you have your target acquired and you have decided to shoot. Now, I've heard that one all sorts of different ways. Basically, keeping your finger off the trigger. Again, I'm keeping it pointed in a safe direction that's downrange, away from people. So now, when you have your hand on the firearm, you want your, again, safe and empty, safe. And we're going to visually and manually inspect, look away, visually, manually, inspect, safe and empty, okay? Now, when you put your hand on the gun, you're going to keep your finger off the trigger and outside the trigger guard. Now, outside the trigger guard is not even just over here. If you look through from this side, you don't ever want to, when you look through from this side, you don't want to have your hand in a position where if you were to fall or get nervous and you had that that grip reflex, you don't want your hand to slip inside of the trigger guard and, God forbid, pull the trigger and shoot at something you didn't mean to. So when you have your finger off the trigger, we have the finger off the trigger, outside the trigger guard. I like to see it at a 45-degree angle, or as much as you can, pointed upward. So I have it off the trigger, outside the trigger guard, and up on the frame of the gun. So if you were to trip and fall, it's very difficult for your finger to slip onto the trigger from here. Rule 3, keep your finger off the trigger and outside the trigger guard until you have your target acquired and you have decided to shoot. The 4th rule of firearm safety: be sure of your target and what is beyond. Now, I've heard it worded all different ways. Be sure of your target and what's in front and what's behind it. I like be sure of your target, what is in front of it, behind it, above it, below it, to the right of it, to the left of it. That if you were to miss your target and the bullet went anywhere else, what's it going to hit? You are responsible for every bullet that exits your gun until it stops. So if you were to miss and it hits a tree, thank God. You miss and it hits a mailbox and stops, thank God. You miss and it hits a person, oh my God. That's police world. You learn that every bullet that exits your gun outside of range or training or practice, on duty or off duty, has a lawyer attached to it. So be very sure of your target and what's in front of it, behind it, above it, below it, to the right and to the left. Be sure of your target. So here's a quick thing. So again, these are all dummy rounds, inert ammunition, and a loaded magazine. Okay, a few rounds. Okay, so we have safe and empty. This is the bench. We're at the range. That's the target. That's downrange. Loaded. Charged. So now, we have a loaded and charged firearm, right? So there's bullets in the magazine, and there's a round in the chamber. If I drop the magazine and place it down, now the magazine's gone, the slide is still forward. As a range safety officer, seeing that on the table, I can tell there's no magazine, but I don't know if there's a round in that chamber or not. I assume that there is, until proven otherwise. So now, one of the ways we make this safe and empty is we ejected the magazine, so there's no source of ammunition. We're going to rack, then lock the slide to the rear. Then we visually and manually inspect, so I see clear through to the table that there's no magazine in there and no ammunition. I look into the chamber, into the barrel, to make sure that there's no ammunition in there. I then put my finger in to check. I put my finger in to check. I look away. I look and feel again. I look and feel again. And then when I place it down on the bench, I put it down, pointing in a safe direction, downrange, with the slide locked to the rear and the ejection port facing up. The ejection port is where the spent casings, where the bullets come out of the top. That's called the ejection port. So when I place it on the table, I make sure that the slide is locked to the rear, that the gun is pointed downrange, and that the ejection port is up, so that somebody, without even having to touch it, can visually inspect inside the magazine well, the chamber, and the ejection port, that it's safe and empty. When I see that at the range and somebody just has a gun on the table with the slide forward, red flag. That's a no-no. Just be careful of that. It's being respectful to the other shooters there that have some experience and just proper habits for your own safety and for the safety of the people around you. Even when I'm teaching a class and I know that I've double, triple, quadruple checked that there's no ammunition in the room, like it would be magic for a bullet to appear in there, I still double, triple, quadruple check in the course of a class, teaching a student. Like when I hand it to somebody, I would never hand somebody a gun loaded just like this. Or even though I know it's safe and empty with the slide forward. If I'm going to hand it to somebody, again, I point it down range, I lock the slide to the rear, check, and I hand it to them, finger off the trigger, just as safely as I can, safe and empty, and let them load it and charge it and fire it. And then when they hand it back to me, I hope that they're going to hand it back the same way. If not, red flag. That's a no-no. If I need to make this safe and empty, I'm going to keep my firearm pointed in a safe direction, downrange. Place your source of ammunition on the table. When I go to lock the slide to the rear, I don't wave my hand in front of it. I put my hand over the top. I pull it back, and the entire time, the muzzle, the barrel, the hole in the front of the gun is pointing at the target, that if, God forbid, something was to go wrong or accidentally the gun goes off, it'll always go off in that safe direction away from people. It's amazing how often people that know better, people who have had a lot of training, somehow forget these rules, or they just, I don't even know how it happens, but it happens. And the more an instructor watches a range, the more you see these like, oh my God moments, and you got to correct people. So the best thing to do is to learn the rules, know the rules, and then police yourself and correct yourself and just make these things really habits, because people have moved away from using the word accidental discharge. They say, wait a second, there's no accidents. That thing didn't accidentally go off. You made a mistake. Shoot and reduce. That was a negligent discharge. Again, accidental discharge, negligent discharge, I don't care what you call it. The thing went off when it wasn't supposed to. And it probably happened because neglecting to pay attention to some of these rules. So again, I don't mean to come across strict or mean or any of those things, but it's serious stuff. It's really, really serious stuff. And to keep yourself safe and the people around you safe, pay attention to the rules of firearm safety. They're that important. All right, quick review. First rule of firearm safety: treat every firearm as if it is loaded. When you look at it, touch it, pick it up, whatever you're going to do with it, treat it like it's loaded and give it the respect that it deserves. Second rule of firearm safety: always keep your firearm pointed in a safe direction. A safe direction is away from people. Never point your weapon at anything you do not intend to destroy. If you should ever find yourself having to point or thinking that you should point your firearm at someone, be sure you are justified. Never point your weapon at anyone unless you are justified. 3, keep your finger off the trigger and outside the trigger guard on the frame of the gun until you have your target acquired and you have decided to shoot. On long arms, rifles, and shotguns, and anything that has a safety, keep your safety on as well until you have decided to shoot. 4, be sure of your target, what is beyond, what is above, below, left and right, in front of and back of. Be sure of your target. A little caveat to do not point your firearm at anything you do not intend to destroy. If you have a firearm for home defense, self-defense, personal concealed carry, or any of those reasons, a very important rule: do not point your weapon at anything you do not intend to destroy. Always keep your weapon pointed in a safe direction. Never point your weapon at anyone unless you are justified. That's where you check your laws on deadly physical force, and they'll tell you very cut and dry when you are justified or unjustified at aiming a firearm at someone. Never point your weapon at anyone unless you are justified. Again, I've heard these rules taught in all sorts of different ways, but the meaning behind them is always the same. Treat them like they're loaded. Always keep them pointed in a safe direction. Never point at anything you don't want to destroy. Keep your finger off the trigger until you have your target acquired and you have decided to shoot. And be sure of your target. What's in front of it, in back of it, to the left, to the right, above it, below it. Be sure of your target. You are responsible for every single round that exits your firearm until it stops. And every round that exits your firearm outside of the range, or even at the range if you have some sort of accident, has a lawyer attached to it. I don't want these things to scare you out of shooting, out of going to the range and practicing safely. But it should scare you enough that you treat it the way it deserves to be treated. These are really important rules for any responsible gun owner, shooter, competitive shooter, concealed carry holder. They're really important. I can't stress that enough. So please follow these rules. Be the responsible one. Set the example for others and pass it on. Police yourself, and if you have to, police the people around you. When accidents happen, it could be tragic. So be safe, shoot straight, follow the rules. So if you made it this far and you like what I'm teaching and preaching, go ahead and give me a thumbs up and like this video. If you love it, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. If you gotta have it, hit the bell notification button, and YouTube will let you know when the next video drops. If you're really digging it, you can find us on all social media platforms at 5 Elements Tactical. That's all I got for now, Warriors. So until our paths cross again, pray for the best, prepare for the rest. I'm Kyoshi Dave Herman with 5 Elements Tactical Training. Thanks for watching.